Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj,
And my name is James.
and football was back yesterday, so we are back to business. Another interesting night of FPL action. People picking up scores that are the same as you'd be happy with in a full game week off the back of just two matches. Behind closed doors football and all of that stuff for us to go through, as well as your Twitter questions that you will have put through. Football's back, James.
Yes, and it was quite pleasing, wasn't it? Overall, it was an absolute mad 24 hours or so. Certainly, from my perspective, in the build-up, I couldn't remember a 24 hours like it. I mean, at one point yesterday, I was like, "Fuck Twitter, I'm leaving." I just had to be honest, the person I had the raging hump with the most was myself.
Yeah, I understand.
And it became we'll talk through what happened, but it became a major worry for me about the impact that I might have been having on other people's teams, which was a negative, particularly for Sky players, which we'll talk about a little bit. Don't worry, it's not a major Sky FPL crossover, but just to state why I was worried about them. I was like, this is a drama. And I was stressing. But it was great to be back. I think half hour into the Villa Sheffield United game, everybody was like, is this what I've been fucking waiting for? Then we had the car crash of, I think, genuinely the worst referee decision in Premier League history ever happened in the first game back. And and then Man City were an absolute joy to watch last night. I mean, I obviously say that considering who they were playing against, but yeah, all right.
I think last night about 11:45 midnight, I was struggling to go to sleep and tossing it to my wife. I was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I should probably put the football back on." I thought, I'll be honest with you, both games weren't great, but the whole experience of getting football back was good. I watched some of it with the sound on, the fake sound, and some of it without. I don't know whether you start with the sound on and then switch to without has an influence or what have you, because I started without and then added, then added the sound, and then it felt particularly fake. Whereas I feel like if I'd had the crowd cheering on from the beginning, I might have been none the wiser and just let it kind of roll.
Sorry, mate. I'm afraid to say I did it the other way and came to the same conclusion.
Okay.
That it was better, but it was better without the noise. I was absolutely convinced that I would prefer it without the crowd noise being pumped in. So I gave it. So I thought, do you know what? I'll start with Villa Sheffield United with the crowd noise on. I'm fascinated to hear what it sounds like. And all it was just like a constant murmuring noise, not particularly loud. Just I don't know, like 30,000 people talking to each other in the distance, right?
Yeah.
And then every now and again, you'd get like quite a quiet Villa, 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 and I was like. That's a really random time to be doing that. That just doesn't feel right. It was one Villa someone had a header and Henderson saved it quite comfortably in his midriff. And it was the sort of one where it would get like, a little bit of applause as in, that was a decent move, effort on target. Okay, clap. But then there was like a big, ooh, I was like, this doesn't work. That's just not right. So I gave up on it. And then last night in London, we had major storms. I think, obviously, you would have seen on the pictures that Manchester had it as well. And Manchester had it really bad on Tuesday night. So I lost my Sky coverage with about 15 minutes to go of the Man City game. Put it on my phone, and it reverted straight to the crowd noise.
Oh, okay.
And City were knocking the ball about at the back, 2-0 up, completely strolling. And it boomed in with fucking Blue Moon. So loud. And I was like, this is ridiculous. This doesn't work. So yeah, I'm very much going without the noise. I think I will have another look at it to see if my opinion changes. But I think I preferred the hearing the odd things, and it's more real. I think we have to deal with this is the reality. Let's watch the reality. Look, I know what you're saying about the quality.
The first game wasn't great, but I think you could tell that it lacked a certain intensity, and that's partly driven by the lack of crowd and what have you. So I think it's part of what's going on the pitch with that lack of atmosphere you can sometimes see.
massive pressure to go first as well. I mean, how many games do you see in the first couple of days at World Cups are really poor and similar like that, under the pressure, desperately don't want to lose? You know, everybody is watching that first game. Like, far more people would have watched Villa Sheffield United yesterday than would normally have. Obviously, it's probably one that would normally be 3:00 on a Saturday, for example. I felt going without the noise was much better because you get the odd things like you'd hear Wilder shouting every now and again and that. Like, that's 3 tackles we've missed or something. And I think, wow, they've actually picked that up. That's great. So, yeah, I think we've got to treat it for the reality. What you said about the quality of the games, we ain't going to watch a game in the next 2 months that's going to go down in Premier League history as one of the great games. I can tell you that right now. There isn't going to... Sure. There might be a 4-3, and afterwards you're going, Jesus, that was a really good game. Are you going to remember it as one of the great games in Premier League history? I'm telling you now, there's no chance of that happening. There's not... You just can't play at the same intensity without a crowd. It's just
Trust me, I'll disagree, but it's a maybe. Take West Ham Villa on the last day of the season. If this winner stays up, there'll be that has the potential of maybe something happening in it. But I do understand where you're coming from. Let's talk about how you did an FPL, how I did an FPL, and then we'll break down the 2 games that we saw.
We need to do the story before we get to the game.
Okay, let's do that first.
Yeah, actually, let's do that first. So, as a lot of you will know, I've been doing these game day lives for the Championship Manager simulation based on 0102, right? It's been quite interactive, really good fun doing it twice a week. So Tuesday night, I'm doing this simulation. And our Man City correspondent, Johnny Pringle, pops up in the chat. Now, Johnny, I've never seen on a YouTube chat before. And as far as I was aware, he wasn't playing the game. I actually still don't know if he's been playing that game or not. Anyway, cut a long story short, he's in the chat and he's like, I've got some Man City team news. And I saw it in the chat and I was like, hang on a minute. So then I've got 200 people watching. I'm like, Johnny, you need to send me that information, mate. Let's talk about it live while I'm doing this. So I knew that because you think we had Johnny on Clash of the Correspondents 2 Thursdays ago, right? In fact, it was just last Thursday, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and he's sitting there.
It,
yeah, he's sitting there absolutely honestly while he's talking to us. He's like, other than Edison, I can't tell you anyone that's going to play twice. You're going to have to go on it quite instinctively, etc. So when Johnny said he had team news, I knew instantly that it was nailed on and absolutely correct. So he sent me
correct. It was the best he could possibly do, right? Because anyone saying that they know what Pep's going to do is impossible.
He decided to share the information with me. Now, probably I should have shut up, but I've got 200 people now watching me who also want that information. So he sent me a DM and he goes, Aguero starts for Arsenal. I didn't ask any questions. I just knew then in that moment that he knew it and that was the truth. And he wasn't doing it as a joke or wind up or anything. So then I didn't think about it too much. I didn't put anything on Twitter. Obviously, the guys in the stream knew, but I didn't see anybody putting it on Twitter either to say Aguero's definitely starting. All right, no problem. So then you and I sat together first thing yesterday morning and did our Sky podcast. And when I woke up, I was like, there's no way we can record this podcast and pretend we don't know right now that we know Aguero is starting. So we recorded the podcast and we approached it from that perspective. And one of the real benefits we had on doing the Sky podcast yesterday was, even though we knew that, we basically both still came to the conclusion that KDB was a better choice. Was basically what we came to, was a little bit of a saving grace. For those who don't play the Sky game, the reason this is so important for Sky as opposed to FPL is, in every day in Sky, you get to choose a captaincy. Every day. So, and because of the restart, etc., we knew people were going to be going into Manchester City. So where did you go? Did you go Aguero, KDB, etc.? And obviously, with Aguero, he's so dodgy because you often don't know if he's going to play or not. So with us thinking, yeah, he's playing, we knew so many people were going to take that and take the chance. Anyway, I chopped it up, cut a cute little intro into the start saying, we know Aguero starting. Bang, music starts. Okay, bang, upload. It was great. Until the second the podcast dropped, I got a DM from Johnny saying, mate, I'm so sorry, the information's changed. He's not starting tonight.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. Now, at this point, there's nothing on Twitter, but the podcast has dropped. And I know that it only takes, people knew the information within the first 7 seconds of that podcast that we were saying Aguero was starting. I was like, oh my Lord. So tried to delete the thing, deleted the podcast. Great. I haven't tweeted the podcast out at this stage. And re-uploaded it. I cut a new intro in the bathroom because Harry was running around everywhere screaming his head off, saying, and I wanted it to sound different to the audio that we'd recorded, saying, look, ignore what you hear on this podcast. We've now got information that Aguero doesn't start.
Yeah.
Re-uploaded the podcast, and it still dropped with the old intro again. So then Manchild, bless him, come and helped me out and saved me. I managed to work out what the issue was, and then we got it sorted. By this point, I'm thinking, shit, I've got to put something on Twitter at this stage.
Yeah.
If anybody's heard it, and by this stage, there's all these different rumours going on. So you've got a group of people who have heard us and like, yeah, Aguero's starting. And then there's other rumours coming out from other sources, which now Johnny's heard, which is saying Aguero's not starting. So the mixed messages were mental. So in trying to apologise, I was then getting abuse left, right and centre. Like, you're doing it for attention and all that trolling, which wasn't bothering me. But everyone was assuming that I was in a panic about my FPL team. I didn't give a shit. I was worried about everybody else's. Because Aguero wasn't coming in my team for FPL or Sky, so it didn't make a difference for myself. I was worried that I'd given people misinformation and how they were going to feel about that. And that felt a terrible responsibility. Then I'm having to fend off from people like, if you care about FPL this much, you shouldn't do a podcast. And I'm like, oh, no, you don't really get it, man. I'm trying to fucking help people out, and I've made things worse.
It wasn't that bad in the grand scheme.
No, of course it wasn't, mate. Of course it wasn't. Yeah. And everybody was really supportive. Some people who responded badly to us, listen, our Twitter community, they got battered, mate.
Yeah.
Battering people saying, you don't understand, you need to piss off. So the reaction on Twitter from the people we know was brilliant and stuff. So at that point, I'm like, okay, do you know what? Chill. It's calm. Everything's fine. It's 3:30 and I haven't changed my FPL team, but I know what it's going to be. So
that's roughly when I rang you, I think, when I was thinking about who I was going to buy.
Exactly. So I log back in and I'm like, well, I'm just going to make the changes now. That's absolutely fine. And then I realized one of the changes is John Fleck. And I'm like, oh, shit. Because we've had this big rumor come off Reddit that O'Connor, and then it was confirmed basically that O'Connor was out. And there was still extreme doubts about Fleck. And I was like, shit, I've got to change something. And I can't change it. Then it also realised on me that 1.5 million, I don't know why I thought this, the 1.5 million I was leaving in the bank wasn't going to be enough to get me from Mahrez to Mane in game week 31. Mm-hmm. So I basically had to scrap the whole thing. And I'm like, okay, now I am worried about my FPL team. What am I going to do with it? And honestly, the choice between Lundstrom, Target and Doherty, all at different valuations, became an absolute nightmare. I ended up going without Target. Wish I'd got him now and didn't go for Doherty. But I'd ended up doing it completely differently where I haven't left the money to be able to go straight to Mane in game week 31. I battered into this game week. I ended up adding Adama Traore, was what I decided to do as the other extra single game week player. And the listeners will be going, James, I'm sure I've heard you say a number of times that you think Traore is the sort of player that may struggle under these conditions.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right, but I don't think you'll struggle against West Ham and Bournemouth in the next two game weeks.
Yeah, not in the next 2 game weeks. I actually have a sneaky about this West Ham Wolves game on Saturday. It's not going to be a high scoring 2-3-0. It's going to be low scoring. So Wolves, you'd think, will probably win, but let's see. Yeah.
So that wasn't the end of the story in terms of pre-deadline, because you're in my ear going, James, you know what, I'm going to do it. And do you want to explain that?
That was Aguero. If I hadn't bought my friend Leroy Sané, I would have bought Aguero. Then obviously Aguero wasn't going to play, and then I was just like, you know what, I just got to do it. And then Manchild and I had a bit of fun with some video content. I think that little video is up to like nearly 10,000 views now. So that was quite a bit of fun, and then obviously we watched the games in the evening. Are you talking about people giving you abuse?
No, it wasn't that, because I can listen. When you put yourself, I've said this before, when you put yourself out there, you're there to be shot at. So if someone wants to shoot at me, that's absolutely fine. And particularly in an environment like Twitter, if someone wants to shoot, it's freedom of speech, right? As long as you're not racist or homophobic or anything like that, I can take anything else, right? Yeah. So I didn't have too much of a problem with that. But then obviously everyone's trying to back me up as well. And I'm thinking, well, you don't really need to. The point is I need to get the message out to people of what happened on the Sky podcast. That's the point. And there really was no point trying to explain to FPL people what the issue with Sky was, because I did that once and then what's Sky? And I was like, oh no, this is a nightmare too, right? So then I got locked in and it was great. And I think I'm all chilled now. Do you know what? I'm going to wait for that Villa Sheffield United team news, and then I'm going to change my Sky team, because in Sky, you got the deadline right up till kickoff of the first game to change the team. Then obviously I was just looking through Twitter and I saw our Fulham correspondent, the Tinkerman. He tagged in fucking Rockstar, hadn't he? I've forgotten about fucking Rockstar. It's 5-5. And Rockstar's there. Well done. I didn't think he'd get old or something, but he's done it. Fair game to him. And he's spot on as usual. And he had about 14 of the stars listed, didn't he, in the Villa Sheffield United game. Fortunately, I had all of them. So it wasn't a problem. But I forgot, for example, in the moment, like, to take out Pepe Reina of the differential team and stuff. So, which I would have just switched it straight to Nyland if I'd known. I mean, we'll come on to Nyland. What a clown he is as well. But yeah, it was just so much drama throughout.
I think this whole team leak stuff now, you do have to take a lot with a pinch of salt, because there's so many people trying to garner attention using it. I think it's just something I steer away from a little bit. Cause
the irony was, in that stream I was doing Tuesday night on YouTube, was saying to people, there are going to be so many fakes tomorrow. Please be careful. And then 12 hours later, I'm getting called a fake. Like, what the fuck is going on here?
Oh,
but yeah, we got there in the end. It was good fun. I think what I would say is, in that, when I shared the information of Aguero the first time, and then the information changed, and then I shared it again, the idea was to try and help people. That was I've got information. I felt like it's my duty to share that.
Yeah.
If I get that information again, it's staying in the Slack channel on Patreon. It ain't going no further. Because unfortunately, it's just not worth the trouble.
I agree with you on that. There we go. And in the end, Aguero didn't start and was on the bench and came on, and he could have even scored towards the end of the game.
At least in the end, the information was right, because actually I'm sitting there at 5-7 last night and I'm thinking, fucking hell, what if he starts? So I was pleased in the end it didn't start.
That would have been
it would have been awful, mate.
So you ended up on 70 points. You happy with that?
Oh yeah, delighted. So I mean, I've bench boost. My bench boost consists of Leno, Ings, Traore, and Doherty, and I've got Jimenez and Trent as single game week players as well. I ended up going for just 2 Villa in the end, in McGinn and Grealish. So 3 points each, kind of fine. It almost equates to like an assist when you've got the 2 together, and actually cancelled out the little bit of, say, Target. I know there's plenty of others will have had all 3 of them, for example, but then I went treble Sheffield United at the back. The Ederson and Leno combination would have cancelled out anybody that went for Henderson and Reina and wasn't able to change it last minute. I captained KDB. Mahrez obviously with an assist as well. So it didn't come out too badly. To be on 70 points and have 15 players to go was great, right? I jumped 330,000 places to 550k. Although, as one of the great lads on the Slack channel pointed out to me, how shit must you be at FPL to have been jumping hundreds of thousand places last night?
Yeah, true. I ended up on 66. Leno in goal, it was all right. I had a full house at the back with 2 Sheffield United and 1 Aston Villa in terms of the clean sheets. Although Lundstrom did pick up his yellow card. KDB as captain. Anybody that did well this week had KDB as captain. Grealish. And then I had Raheem Sterling's points, which made a big difference to me keeping up with everybody else, because Aubameyang did nothing. Samatta only came off the bench. Both Leroy Sané and Pepe didn't start. So I ended up with only 8 starters and 1 off the bench, something like that, which wasn't great. But to only be 4 points adrift off the back of that, I'll take it. And I've got obviously 11 to go. You've got 15 to go. We'll see where we end up by the end of this weekend. I'm hoping that Pepe and Sané not playing last night, and Arsenal, his abysmal performance means that Pepe should be in for a recall come the weekend.
Oh, Arsenal will have to make changes at the weekend. So I think
Pathetic.
even genuinely, I wouldn't be certain that Aubameyang will start Saturday, having played all of that game last night. Not at all. I mean, he spent most of it playing left back second half, didn't he? So
it's hideous. Let's talk about the first game, Villa Sheffield United. I thought it was dull, but in understandable circumstances. But I thought that I was most impressed with Villa, I'll be honest with you. I thought they knocked the ball about well, created chances, few decent attempts on goal. The young kid up front, Davies, his shot that, Henderson pulled off a few great saves to keep him out. I thought Villa played really well. And on the balance of play, I think they were the better team. Ultimately, though, Sheffield United should have won.
Well, it depends which way you look at it. Because, I agree with you. In context of forgetting the obvious moment, Aston Villa didn't deserve to lose over the 90 minutes of the football. It did quite well. I thought it was fascinating. It might be something to pick up on, particularly in the first sort of 20 minutes or so. Right about Keenan Davis, who obviously got the nod over Samatta up front. He really pinned on Egan and gave him a bit of trouble, actually. And
a lot.
And
strong.
just obviously
he looked like a real handful.
Yeah, and obviously to add on to the fact that O'Connell was missing, and those three, if you include Basham, and to be honest, even if you had Stevens and Baldock, they basically play every game, don't they? So if you take a component out, it is going to cause a little bit of early nerves. I thought they settled better. The young boy who played left side centre half, Jack Robinson, he acquitted himself so well that I forgot he was even playing, basically, which that's a really good sign, basically. Obviously, another Sheffield United 4.0 defender, right? If anybody wants to have a look further, we'd advise against it at the moment, I think. But yeah, it might be something to watch out for in terms of that trying to pin against Egan, because I've not really seen anyone try and go really direct into Sheffield United like that so far this season. And it might be something that teams play on a little bit. I wonder if, I don't know, is Andy Carroll fit for Newcastle? Would they maybe play him there on Sunday and try and do that and rough it up a little bit? The thing is, Carroll wants to come onto it for diagonals rather than that, because these were straight central balls to try and get at and over him. Yeah. Which Carroll's obviously not going to get in behind. But in terms of the aerial, the problem for Newcastle is they need to have, it's different. They need to then have people that would get around Carroll on Sunday. I don't think they play that way, but it might be something to watch out for in the next few weeks. Then, in spite of saying Villa playing quite well, I thought Conor Hourihane was good. He struck me watching the first half. I thought he's the sort of player who's going to be really suited to these conditions, because he's a very cultured footballer. And he felt very composed. Everything was right the way he was playing the game, tempo-wise, etc. He's the sort of player, it's not going to equate to FPL, but might well be suited in the conditions. And yet, despite saying Villa did quite well, Sheffield United have been absolutely fucking robbed here, mate.
Yeah. First instinct is to trust technology. So I'm like, it probably wasn't over the line. First instinct, because of the technology. You look at it again, and the ball's against the post, so how can it not be behind the line? And you look at it again, and it's very clearly behind the line. And within 30 seconds, it was very, very obvious that someone done fucked up here. And
I'm watching the game, and Harry, I want to shout out my son, right? He was absolutely brilliant last night. He didn't moan, he didn't whinge. I watched all of it on the telly. Couldn't believe my luck. I'm still kicking him out the house for Spurs Friday, by the way. I ain't taking no chances. So I'm watching the game, and it's been quite mundane. I'm playing around with the volumes of my sound, no sound, etc. And it happens, and I'm like, I'm sure that's in, but because players, was it Courtney Hawes ended up basically pushing him in, was so close to him. Yeah. I didn't know if it had created, from the visual or the first angle, I didn't know if it created a bit of an illusion, because it was clear that Nyland hit the net, but then obviously when it's not given, you think, oh, well, maybe it didn't. You just think, it's going to get given now, right? So then when they showed the replay the first time, even though as a Spurs fan and Sheffield United being above us, I wanted Villa to win, really. I'm screaming at the telly, mate. It's a goal. It has to be a goal. Screaming at the telly. Yeah. And I'm like, what's going to happen here? It's incredible. Then there was a free kick to Villa. Obviously, the play moved 30 seconds later. And I thought, well, someone's got to say something here or something. I think we might have seen the replay afterwards. But I remember thinking, well, they're going to show the replay now of what happened, and maybe VAR is going to step in, because even the
technically
first time,
VAR is supposed to be able to VAR should have stepped in according to the Sky pundits.
Listen, this absolutely. I know once they've stopped the game and then it's restarted again, they're technically not meant to give the decision. You might remember the Manchester City penalty against Spurs earlier in the season where the ball didn't go out of play for 2 minutes. And eventually they said to Mike Dean, you've got to give the penalty, mate, for the Aurea challenge on Aguero in February. But in this one, I think like they should have pulled it a minute and a half later and went, listen, we're really fucking sorry here, but we've watched this back. Something's wrong with Hawkeye. It's a goal. And you have to give that. It's not. People were tweeting me yesterday when I said, I don't know if Sheffield United are maybe on grounds for appeal here. I mean, Chris Wilder, if any manager could handle it well, it was Chris Wilder. Absolutely guaranteed. Taking the piss, saying like Nyland was basically halfway up the whole end and stuff.
Yeah.
But I said to you as well, I wonder if they've got grounds to appeal the game because goal line technology is absolute matter of fact now. People are saying, what about Mendes in 05 and Lampard in 2010? I'm like, yeah, but there wasn't goal line technology then. They reckon it's the first time, was it in 99,000 tests or something, where they reckon all 7 possible angles from Hawkeye were obscured by Nyland, the post. I mean, it's an issue if the post is obscuring, by the way. Courtney Halls, and I think Tyrone Mings, who ran into view on the other side by the other post as well. The chances of that happening essentially were 9,000 to 1. They couldn't get it. I don't have any issue with Michael Oliver being the referee on the day because I think
he couldn't see it.
What I would say is I think if there wasn't video technology, the linesman would have given a goal. And it would have been a very easy decision as well because it was from a dead ball. The linesman's in the correct position already to be under kind of looking at this. So he's going to have the angle, even if he wouldn't have been in line with the goal line. But even from his angle, not in line, he would have been able to see that Nyland, because he's on that side, was pushing the ball against the fucking back of the post, mate.
Yeah.
So 10 years ago, the linesman would have put his flag up and given a goal. I'm absolutely certain. But from Michael Oliver's perspective, and I get it, because they'll test before every game, everything. He's looking at his watch. He hasn't got the best view, and he's going, but it ain't gone off. So he's probably thinking it has, but he can't give the goal if he's not told to.
No.
But the dickheads in the VAR, that's disgraceful, mate. He's absolutely shooting, mate. Then he putting down and getting off that, and those people should not be allowed to referee a game again. Because if you don't have the cojones to step in and go, do you know what? I've seen that. That's a goal. And they absolutely have seen that and decided not to give it. That's unbelievable. And for me, I genuinely think that's the worst Premier League refereeing decision I've ever seen. Because you have
from a VAR point of view.
Well, yeah, because you have the technology to give the goal. Yeah. It's worse than the Mendes goal because you can say, right, Mendes shot from the halfway line. The linesman's running up the pitch. He really should see it, but he doesn't see it. It's human error. They've got 2 of them sitting in the VAR room together and they can't decide that they want to give a goal that they've seen happen. It's unfathomable, mate.
We haven't had an explanation from the Premier League yet, other than we've messed up, right?
Yeah, I think Wilder and Sheffield United need mass credit for not making a huge deal of it because every right to go absolutely mental. And I really think it would have been interesting. I presume the game wouldn't be replayed because it's still refereeing decisions. Video assistant referee is a video to assist the referee. So therefore, by laws of game, it obviously stands. But I think it would have been really interesting for them to put the pressure on and ask a question.
We'll know in 8 weeks if Villa stay up by a point or Sheffield United miss out on the Champions League by a point. All of that stuff.
It's just not those. It's not just those 2 teams impacted, is it? It's up to sort of 12 others that are impacted by this as well. So huge moment.
What about the later game? I'll be honest with you. The only word I can use to describe Arsenal, I thought, was pathetic. And I understand the issues that you have when you lose players early to injury, with the likes of Xhaka and then obviously Mari and all that kind of stuff. I understand that can disrupt your flow, your rhythm, but you've got the opportunity to make 5 substitutions now. And you're going to Man City. When I saw the lineup and I saw Nketiah up front and then Willock, Aubameyang and Saka, and just the whole team, I was worried. And I felt like one of the phrases I use about West Ham quite often is that we like to roll over and have our bellies tickled. That's what Arsenal did yesterday. I didn't feel like they had any desire or approach to win the game. Once City got ahead, I mean, they were good, dominated the ball, knocked it around every now and then, up the tempo and create some really good chances. But it was all too easy for City. And if Arsenal had any intention of winning top 4 or top 5, they have to go into a game like that and at least put up a fight, and they didn't. And I was really disappointed in Arteta. I'll be honest with you. I thought he would have got more out of the players, and they didn't perform at all. And when you chuck in the icing on the cake, which is Sideshow Bob, then yeah, you're done for, mate.
It was interesting. I was listening back to when I was editing the podcast that we did on Monday. And there's a moment where we were talking about Arsenal assets, and I mentioned David Luiz and laughed and said it's too much. And when I heard that back, I thought, I bet he's going to return, And absolutely he did. He's returned. -3 if you've got him. Sorry, guys. It's not what you're expecting of a double game week player, is it? Imagine if you captained him.
You don't deserve to play FPL if you did that.
Let's come back onto Arsenal, because firstly on the game stage, on your point on the team, I actually thought he picked a good team, Arteta. I thought he picked a team that had legs, who could get about the pitch and put the pressure on. And actually in the first 10 minutes, I think it showed. I thought City were very sloppy. De Bruyne gave away one ridiculous ball sort of in the final third, which gave Arsenal an opportunity. And for the first 10, 15 minutes, I actually thought they were doing absolutely fine. And I was sitting there thinking, they might get something out of this, because the energy of the players they'd brought in, rather than starting with the likes of Ozil, Ceballos, etc. Stamina-wise, the young kids, I felt Saka does a good job defensively. We knew Aubameyang would do it on the left-hand side as well. I've been really impressed with Joe Willock when I've seen him this season, actually. And I thought, yeah, I don't mind that, actually. I could vision Willock getting into areas when they had the ball that had the potential to hurt Manchester City. And I know what you're saying. You always get that feeling when you see kids on the pitch that it's a weakened team. But actually...
no, I suppose it wasn't that. And I think you reminded me of my thoughts that, actually, to be honest with you, at 10 minutes into the game, I did actually think that this could end up a 0-0 as well, because it was fairly even and we'd end up with 2 0-0s on the night. So maybe I'm being a bit harsh on the start. You're right there.
I think he picked the legs. I think he picked probably the right team. It started quite well. It also started quite well for them because I think Manchester City started really sloppy. Really, really sloppy. And once they'd sort of had the first half effort on goal, they really woke up and started going through the gears. And then it just became a matter of time. Arsenal also were not helped, right, by the injuries to Mari and Xhaka. That's not going to help. I'd imagine even from Arteta's point of view, he's thinking, Jesus Christ, if I met another sub, I've got to make 3. And he must be thinking, I've got to use 5 here and take advantage to get the freshness of legs playing against Manchester City.
Yeah.
Part way, I think I wouldn't bank on Aubameyang playing on Saturday at the moment, right? Having had to put that shift in and barely kick the ball last night. So I can understand what he was trying to do. On the reflection of it, however, Arsenal fans this morning will be wishing that it didn't restart, because you've now picked up the injuries to Mari and Xhaka. You've got David Luiz suspended at the weekend, which you can say is a blessing or not a blessing. I mean, he's come on and had a... It's going to go down in history as one of the great Premier League substitute appearances. There's no doubt about that. I think he was the first player to make an error leading to a goal, give away a penalty and be sent off since I think it was Cole Jenkinson 5 years ago, which was for West Ham. It was for West Ham, actually, because I saw it originally. I thought it's another Arsenal player. But I think he was at West Ham. So, if you hit that treble up, mate, that is some fucking achievement. But from Arsenal probably feeling a little bit positive from thinking, okay, it's City, but technically it's a game in hand to put them back in challenging. I think they were woken up this morning with some sore heads thinking, what have I just watched last night? Because it became a car crash, and added by off-field stuff as well, with Ozil not being on the substitutes bench. Whatever Arteta thought, in my opinion, I think he's made a mistake with Ozil, because the best thing to do if he wasn't going to use him would have been take him up there, put him on the bench, and you could have used him in the last 20 minutes or not used him, right? You ain't going to tell me, as much as we've taken the piss out of him, that he isn't in Arsenal's best 20 players.
Why was he not on the bench?
Well, Arteta said it was a tactical decision. And I think that tactical decision was, I know he's not going to put the work rate in against Manchester City, so there's no point taking him and
risking. It was raining, to be fair, as well.
Well, we even joked about it. Like, it's 2 away games. Will he actually turn up? But it seems like on this occasion, it's not his fault. And so now there's mass thinking outside of, is he still involved in Arteta's plans, etc. Because I just think if Arteta didn't want to play him, that's absolutely fine. But I think, take him and put him on the bench when you've got 8 outfield subs available. Come on. And then, if it's 2-1 late in the game, use him. If you're getting battered and you don't want to use him, don't use him. That would have been my perspective on it. And then David Luiz's interview after the game is absolutely bizarre. I've watched it about 5 times and I'm not sure what the message was. So the message was, have you seen it, Suj?
No, I haven't.
You have to see it. So he comes out and he said, he's asked for the interview. So, I mean, how often do you see a player that gets sent off go and do an interview after a game? You don't really. He's asked for the interview. And he says, the first thing he goes about saying, he said, look, I want to say sorry. Fair enough. I've let people down a bit today. But I've made the wrong decisions over the last couple of months. Right? So what's that? What is that? He said, I should have made different decisions. Then he gets pressed on it and he doesn't really go into it. Now, his contract is up in 2 weeks on the 30th of June. He's now suspended. So in theory, he's done. If Arsenal don't give him a new contract. But then in the final 20 seconds, he says, Arteta knows I want to stay, etc. So it's really weird. It felt like it was a long way round trying to dig at the manager.
Yeah.
That's how it felt to me. And I think Arteta's probably looked at it from a financial perspective. Obviously, we spoke with Adam last week saying, we've got a lot of centre-halves. Most of them are shit. They're getting Saliba back from St. Etienne next season as well is another one to add in. You've had Holding, Chambers. They're young players who've not really, because of injuries or whatnot, not really had the chance this year. Although I think Callum Chambers has been young for about 10 years now. But he's probably thinking, do you know what? I can get Luiz out the door here quite easily. And then, to be honest, the fact that Mustafi's been picked over him, whatever you think of David Luiz, isn't, in my opinion, the right decision because Mustafi is a bigger car crash than David Luiz generally. David Luiz, I've said it so many times, he's 9 out of 10 or 5 out of 10. There's no middle ground. And I saw lots of people last night saying, has David Luiz ever had a good game? I've seen David Luiz, when his concentration is right, he can be top draw. I think his art's not in it and he's not showing it at the moment. I've seen David Luiz go and play defensive midfielder against Spurs at Wembley a couple of years ago, and he was head and shoulders the best player on the pitch in terms of his concentration and his positioning, playing in a different position. He was switched on. Quite often you see him do really well in big games if he's switched on. If he's not switched on, he just gets mugged to bits. And I don't think he was switched on when he came on that pitch last night.
One positive for Arsenal yesterday, I would say, was Ben Leno. I thought Leno had a good game. He made a few good saves. I mean, he had to work. Last night, he had a lot of shots on target. I think it was 19 attempts. I don't know how many, can't remember how many on target. I thought he had a good game. There was a point in I was thinking he might have a worldie and keep him out. But ultimately, City were too good. But I did think Leno had a good game. So you're getting someone there that's growing in confidence. He could be their keeper for a long time to come. And last night...
Right. And I think there's 2 other positives just to say, actually, for Arsenal. I thought Kieran Tierney did all right. First game back in a while. I thought he did okay.
He got turned inside a little bit a couple of times, but generally it was all right.
For the young players on the pitch, particularly the likes of Willock, Saka and Ketcher and that, they will have learned a lot last night. Playing against that Manchester City team is an extremely good experience. It might not feel like it at the time, but you'll benefit from it in the long run. They would have learned a lot last night.
I learned something yesterday that Kevin De Bruyne can't do as well, James.
Go on. What's that then?
He can't pull off a beard, mate, because that fucking little blonde thing around is not the thing, mate. Kevin, you can do anything with a football, but you can do nothing with facial hair, mate. So you better get that Gillette back 3 out, mate, or whatever.
Brilliant. There was a spell before. It was a spell either side of half time where him and David Silva, they were just playing their own game, mate. And they knew they knew they had Arsenal, mate. They knew they had them.
There was a moment before kickoff where I did question the safe captaincy pick with Kevin De Bruyne. There was a moment I was like, you know what? I've done it because of the coverage. And I went back onto the home screen on the FPL site where it shows you the most captain. And it was De Bruyne. I was like, really, there's no advantage to be gained here or whatever. that soon bloody ended, didn't it? When I remembered what a absolute don that guy is.
Loads to be gained, I think, as you've seen with some of the average scores. And I mean, you're saying nothing gained, right? Think of it the different way. What would have been lost? What would have been lost?
Ooh, huge, huge, James.
Yeah, that I think that's more the point, isn't it? What would you have lost out on by not having him is quite a big deal. I mean, I had a few people tweeting me last night going, "Oh, I'm really happy with my score. I got 45," and I'm thinking, I'm telling you, I've seen 80s knocking about already here, like, because they've got De Bruyne and the full coverage defensively, etc. So massive disparity in scores. I think it's worth saying a little bit before we just detail City a little bit more. Maybe is to say, look, average what was 25. I think 23. Overall.
I think 23 or 25.
Yeah,
something
about
like
25. You and I have been sort of 66, 70. Top 10K was in like high 50s or something, wasn't it? It's a huge disparity. There's only 25% of teams changed anything between the game reopening last week and obviously kickoff. I know we've got a question, haven't we, Suj, on price changes? I believe.
James.
We'll come back to that because I definitely want to cover that off. But yeah, huge disparities in scores, and actually those who haven't got De Bruyne at the moment or hadn't captained him probably feel like they've lost a bit this game week. However, there is a full set of games still to go, and Aguero is quite capable of going mental, and that leads back nicely into the game because in 12 minutes Aguero did a lot more than, well, certainly was a lot more threatening than Jesus was in 78, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And I also, even though I don't own Aguero in FPL or Sky, when he missed that chance at the end, I was hoping he was going to score. And not just because it was against Arsenal, but I just thought as well, it completely levels KDB and Aguero. I'll be so happy with that. Would have done great. So after all that controversy, it didn't matter at all. But yeah, Aguero can bang against Burnley in the week. So can Sterling. Leroy Sané, I think, plays, doesn't he? So surely, but not used at all last night. Even when he was warming up, I saw you taking your picture of him warming up with your love hearts and stuff.
Oh dear, we do like a bit of Leroy Sané.
He'll play Monday, and I hope, I know I'm behind you. That's another thing I wanted to mention. So I was banging on about being 33 points behind you. Yeah,
40 points behind me. I did know you were 40, and I was curious why you thought you were 33.
I looked this morning, I'm like, hang on, how am I still 36 points behind? It got worse than I thought it was. So
and also North v South, by the way, I triple captain Raheem Sterling.
Yes, so we know,
game over on that one. I think it might be close to 200 points, because I've got KDB as well,
Yes, I'm aware you've well and truly won that one. I think City will mass rotate. One of the interesting ones that's certainly been a theme on our Slack channel since the game is, what do you think is going to happen with them defensively? And I would just look at it and go, I think Monday night it could well be Cancelo, Otamendi, Fernandinho and Zinchenko. I think that's the problem. It seems like you would think it's probably a nice game to leave Laporte out. You would think. I don't know. They could completely change. They could completely change. I look at the fixtures they've got next week and go Burnley Monday, Chelsea Thursday, and then obviously the FA Cup game against Newcastle is really important to them, right? Because as we spoke with Johnny last week, they're not doing anything in the league, right? They're going to finish second. It's all about getting ready for the Champions League. And the best way for them to keep sharp is treating those FA Cup games as completely serious, other than Bravo will probably play in goal for them. So do they leave players out against Burnley or Chelsea? Now, in terms of the schedule, it makes more sense to leave them out against Chelsea. But again, in terms of sharpness of minds, is he going to want to pick a stronger team against Chelsea?
Pep looked business as usual on the touchline, man. He was sweating bullets, that guy.
That was close to their strongest team last night. And I wouldn't even argue the case at the moment if someone said Garcia is a part of it. He did absolutely fine. I thought it was so funny. I mean, it wasn't funny that he was down for as long as he was. But Edison just not even like going and seeing if he's all right or nothing.
Yeah, he was there
completely left him.
I think they're not allowed to even get close, right? Social distancing and all that. So
yeah, but other players were leaning in, and he just didn't even bother, mate. He didn't even bother.
Let's get through a few Twitter questions, James. We've got 10 or so minutes to rattle through a few of them, and then that will be that. FPL Jeb is the one that asked the question about value, James. I'd like to hear how the market behaved on the opening day and what it means for the rest of the game week or season. I haven't looked at any price changes or rises, but the rumour is not that much at the moment. I think a lot of people haven't been too quick to pull the trigger on transfers.
No, well, the point is to add is what happened yesterday, because a few people were asking this quite late last night, was there were no price changes to my knowledge. I'm just going to have a quick double check of that. I don't think there were. No, yeah. So there were no price changes. Now, a lot of the guys yesterday, I think, so fixes algorithms, and they don't know at the moment, and statistics.co.uk, they won't know either, right? Is what they wouldn't have known yesterday was, were the transfers on the day up to the deadline going to count, or were they not? Now, my assumption was that it would only be transfers from once the game week reopened at 6 o'clock or whenever it was last night. And actually, if you look at the amount of transfers in, for example, so far this game week, it's not many. It's not what we would commonly expect when a game reopens, for example. So most transferred in so far this game week is Marcus Rashford, 25,000 net buys. Then Bruno Fernandes, 16,000. Heung-min Son, 15,000. Those are
minuscule numbers.
Exactly. They're not big. They're not big numbers at all. Go on, Suj.
One thing we didn't factor in when people are thinking everyone's going to be making so many moves is 75%. Because it's a percent. It's the algorithm's a percentage based on ownership or something along those lines. So if 10% of owners sell, the price goes down or whatever. I'm assuming it's something like that.
Yep.
If 75% of the game are dead, then the amount of people making those transfers as a percentage is so much smaller. We might find absolutely no volatility in the market at all now because of that.
Yeah, that's a high possibility. From my experience, what I've generally found is when a player's reset, and again, we don't know this, but if we work under the assumption that all the players will reset to 0 in terms of the algorithms for net transfers in, then generally you probably need about 50,000 net before you'll go up in price. That's my experience. So I think once Bruno Fernandes has had sort of around about that number, 50,000 net buys in, he'll probably go up in price again. There's another curveball to this is, we don't know what the weightage is because we know there's an impact of wildcard transfers, which can't be influenced as well either. So it really is an unknown at the moment. The interesting thing in terms of the numbers, I think, of the players that have been bought in so far, Salah, 5,000, Mane, 5,000. It's not many so far, is it? And actually, I think there was a lot of
free hitters will revert back, though.
Yes, that's absolutely true.
And you got time till the next deadline as well.
Well, there's that. And then if you look at the transfers out as well, because I think there was a big fear for people going sort of treble Sheffield United, that there'd be a big come off. And the way I see it now, there isn't going to be as big a come off, the way I'm looking at it now, for any of them guys to be losing prices between now and next Tuesday. Aguero is most sold 19,000, Aubameyang 18,000. So that, I think, is where the balance of the money's coming for those that are trying to force back in Mane and Salah, for example. The only other real notable one that's had quite a few transfers out is Grealish, who's had 15,000 sold. Dean Henderson's lost 9,000 owners, and it's worth saying he'd be ineligible against Manchester United, right? But the other guys, Lundstrom 7,000, Baldock 5,000. They're not going to lose price.
James, no.
Exactly.
In any given week, sometimes you'll get the top bought in, top bought out in the 300,000-400,000, up to 500,000 movement on players. So it could be that there's so many dead teams that volatility is completely taken out of the market. And we'll see what happens. We're recording almost 24 hours after the deadline, the game opened again. So people will have had all of last night, but they've had all of today as well, and it's not a big volume. And it's only 24 hours until the next deadline.
Yes, absolutely. The number from Fix yesterday, I think I said it earlier, was 25,000 changed their teams. So 75,000, 75% dead teams right now. Only 25% active. They'll be massively disappointed with that, by the way. That's low. So you're talking about what, 1.78 million active left, and some of them will have terrible ranks. You might have people who got ranks of 6 million have gone, I'll go in and change my team.
I've got some friends Like my cousin, who's a very good FPL player, he's in the top 30k. Just couldn't be bothered. I know people in that at that level that couldn't be bothered either. Already pissing some mini leagues and stuff. Just couldn't be bothered. Let's talk. Let's go to FPL DC 82. Got two questions, both of which are one's very quick and easy to answer, and the other's quite funny. Salah or Mane? Pick one until the end of the season after Liverpool wrap up the title next game week.
Mane for me.
Mane for me as well. We've said this a million times.
Yeah, it's a personal preference, and not to do it to death because I've done it before. I don't enjoy owning Mohamed Salah.
No.
I don't enjoy not owning him when he goes mental, but I don't enjoy it. And I just think Mane's professionalism will be exceptional. And I think, look, they'll do very similar things. It's personal preference. I'm not going to go through numbers and stuff to justify either decision. My gut feel is Mane will do slightly better.
Second question. How did Manchard fare in game week 30 plus? Did you captain Westwood? Do you know how many points Manchard got? Don't have a look. Have a guess.
What, so far?
This game week.
About 5.
10. And all of those points came from Raheem Sterling. He's got
cool.
0 elsewhere. When you look at his team, and he's got the likes of Declan Rice, Dele Alli, but he's got the armband on Mo Salah, so you never know. He could that was that game week, right? So it doesn't matter.
Didn't Sterling get an 8-pointer?
No, he got 10. He got two BPS.
Yeah, 10-pointer.
10-pointer, bruvs.
Wow.
Yeah, very, very good.
He scored plus bonus points and clean sheet.
Chris Hermitage said, spent 5 minutes talking about how fun it was to watch KDB. Well, we did that when we talked about them.
It's a joy. I do think that they'll be the best team to watch between now and the finish, Manchester City.
When they were knocking it around, there was 70 to 80% of me that was like, you guys are amazing. And 20% of me that was just angry at Arsenal for not putting up more of a fight there and just making it so easy. But I know it's hard. My
suspicion was that they would adapt best because their style will not change. It's not impacted by crowd or anything. They play the same way. They're coached not to change under circumstances. So I just felt with that in mind that they would be the best to adapt. And I wouldn't be surprised if they won every game between now and the end if they can be bothered.
FPL Crate Digger, did Suj really go through with it? Yes, he is in the Sane. I've got Leroy Sane, and I'm really hopeful he plays at the weekend now. Or is it Monday their game?
Monday night. You've got to wait, mate.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't mind that at all. A question that's come up from a number of people, so I won't name you all individually, but you'll know who you are. But we've got like FPL Maverick, Benny Blanco asked that question, I think, and a few others. Phil Foden, 5.1 million. Is he a season hold now? You've got like people, I don't know, I almost feel like they're overhyping him. Like he's good.
Oh, no, he's terrific, mate. He's some talent. He really is. I would, if I was Spurs, I'd be in the ear saying, can we have him for a year while we transition? We'll play him every week. He'd run the game for us. He's absolutely brilliant. You knew my opinion from before lockdown that I would have, if the Euros had happened this summer, I would have taken him. He's also would have been familiar in the circumstance of coming off the bench. We never considered that sort of thing for England. I think he is a super, super talent. I think he appears that professionally he's absolutely switched on. He also loves that football club, Manchester City. And I think he will do big things. In terms of him from an FPL asset, look, at 5.1 million, he's a way into City. He absolutely is. It's viable. You're just going to have to suffer the bits with it. And I think that if you've got him, you're going to start him a lot of weeks, and there's going to be quite a few one-pointers to go with it. But in terms of technical ability, Suj, this kid's got it. He will be everything that Jack Wilshere should have been.
Would you compare their playing styles?
In terms of what Jack Wilshere was like at 19, where I thought similar things, I thought Jack Wilshere was going to go and dominate English football. I really did. As much as I've slagged him, when I watched him the first few times as a kid, I thought, my God, you're going to be a superstar. And I feel that exactly the same with Foden. and I don't see anything getting in the way for him.
We've got two questions actually. One from Dr. Matt 07, who says, how many points did Sane get? And FPL tips, what do you rate Sane's performance out of 10? So both of you guys, if you can head over to your DMs on Twitter, you might find a little picture of my butt there waiting for you. You can hold your phone close to your face and kiss it.
I thought the bum pics were just for Patreon, mate.
I don't know. I think Matt's a patron, isn't he? I don't know.
Yeah,
if you're not patrons, then get on patrons, and I'll also DM you. All the patrons that we have, I would DM you a picture of a behind. I can't guarantee it's going to be mine.
It's going to take you a while, mate.
Oh, dear. Carl JB, did we prefer the fake crowd noise? We did speak about that. So, in summary, we've got the last question from FPL Guna. Do you think you learned anything that might be relevant for future games from this behind closed doors football?
Difficult, because I think Villa Sheffield United would have always been quite a low scoring encounter anyway, whether it had crowd or no crowd. And actually, I think Man City and Arsenal generally panned out the way we would have expected in a similar circumstance as well. So not major learnings. I think the biggest adaptation is going to be the intensity and stuff, right? Even to the fact in adding in the water breaks, which like it's for necessary purposes. There's no point moaning about it. It is what it is. You just can't play to the same intensity without a crowd. I can't understate 100%. That enough. I think there was
moments where Villa were attacking the box, and that's like the players running at the box, and that's when the crowd suddenly starts getting up on their feet or cheering, and you feel that surge of like extra adrenaline that just was not there. It didn't have that. It didn't have it. Yeah.
Absolutely agree. I've not got too much to add on that, mate, other than, you're not going to... That break as well is going to stop teams in their track in certain games. It's going to change games. You'll get periods where teams are like really on top from 60 to 65 and you think it's coming, and that water break will change a game. You can't, from an FPL perspective, you can't predict that in advance or anything.
No.
I think you are probably likely to get a little bit of a dip in overall goals because as well, with the close proximity of fixtures, etc., I don't see teams going mental. I mean, City on a different night would have scored 5 or 6 last night. And actually, again, they didn't change anything different, I don't think. But I think there'll be other teams who'll think, this is in the bag here. You look at, say, we've had the fixtures now for 33 to 35 announced. Spurs are going 3 days, 3 days, 3 days, 3 days. They've got a Monday night game against Everton. Right, if Spurs are 2-0 up with 20 minutes to go, they ain't going to be pouring forward for 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Because they've got another game on the Thursday and then they've got another game on the Sunday. And you got to think that in your minds, right? So distance of game is quite important from that perspective. Therefore, I think you'll get a little dip in goals scored. I don't know if you'll see any change in terms of number of clean sheets. From an FPL perspective...
I think you'll see an increase.
On what, clean sheets?
If there's less goals scored, I think by default you'll see a small increase in.
My instinct, therefore, if there is one based on the first night, and it's very difficult when you've got Sheffield United in there because they're so good defensively, is that cheaper might be better defensively. There's been a lot of talk of big at the back, but actually it could be that a lot of these cheap guys are going to get you sort of value clean sheets here rather than value attacking returns for similar prices. And therefore, it might pay, and I don't know, to look at more to cheaper defensive options.
Interesting breakdown there.
But it's nothing more than a guess at the moment.
Indeed. A good fun to get football back and be talking about real football. It was only 2 games that we had yesterday, so we've got obviously a full suite of fixtures coming thick and fast, starting with Friday night, Manchester United v Spurs, a full rundown over the weekend. You're going to get to watch pretty much every game, do you think, James?
I'm certainly going to try to. If it goes as well as it did for me last night, then Sunday night's going to be difficult to wangle with it being Father's Day and stuff. But I'll obviously certainly watch Liverpool Sunday night. I may well have to miss the other 2, unfortunately. But I'll try and get through all the Saturdays. Obviously, I'll watch Spurs Friday night. And obviously, it restarts with Norwich. And just briefly on Norwich, because, oh my God, they're in trouble again before it's already started. So they've got major injuries again defensively. They're basically back in the position of having only 2 centre-halves fit. Hanley's out injured. Zimmerman's out injured. They're back to Godfrey playing with Closer. And Closer, I think I saw a stat. He hasn't started a league game since January 2019 or something. Tim Closer, something ridiculous. So they're down to Godfrey and Closer. No, you wouldn't look at them. They're not cheap enough. Closer's 4.3, Godfrey 4.4. So yeah, with Danny Ings sitting on that bench boost, mate, might even be a bit of rubbing the hands, mate, for that one.
Well, let's wait and see.
Terrible blow that for Norwich.
Yeah, horrible. There we go, guys. If you do enjoy our content and you need even more than we put out, we do have a specific Patreon podcast for all our Patreon listeners. You can head over to patreon.com/planetfpl to find the breakdown of all the different tiers that we have there and what you can get in addition. For example, today we put a quiz out for all our Patreon listeners, as well as a very active Slack channel where loads of people are talking about FPL day in, day out. There's well over 120 people in there. So that's a lot of fun as well. It starts from only £3 a month all the way up to 14. It's well worth it. We'll be back at you with tons of content. If you make sure you hit subscribe, whether you're on YouTube, SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes, Spotify, Acast, Overcast, whatever cast you're listening to this podcast on, we would appreciate it. Just keep listening. Not long until the next deadline, so do make sure you get your transfers in before 5 o'clock deadline, before the 6 o'clock Norwich game on Friday.
Easy. What game are you playing?
I thought you said it's 6 o'clock tomorrow.
Yeah, listen, deadline's not till next Tuesday, mate.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm getting confused with Sky, where it's not 2 weeks, and this is one game week, whereas in Sky it was different days.
Now, can we start giving people misinformation? Do you want me to do a quick rundown of the schedule for next week?
Let's do it.
It's a little bit different to normal. So
let's do it.
We'll do main podcast Monday. We'll review the 9 games in advance of obviously the Manchester City-Burnley game. On Tuesday, we've got an additional Clash of the Correspondents coming for you before that deadline, and it will be the opening game of Game Week 31. We're going to be joined by Aaron Lagor and FPL Seagull talking about Leicester and Brighton. On Wednesday, we'll do Sky again. Thursday, I'm going to move Ask James from Friday to a Thursday on YouTube. And on a Friday, we'll review all 10-31 games again. And before you finish, Suj, Football Content Awards, voting closes today.
Get voting. Head over to the Football Content Awards. Best Fantasy Football Podcast. Selecting the drop-down Planet FPL. Hit submit. And we will love you forever. Most importantly, though, James, everybody stay safe. Ciao for now.
Be nice to each other, everybody. Cue music, man, child.